Welcome to another episode of We Don't Die, where my goal is to give you evidence that although our bodies will disappear, we survive physical death. I'm your host, Sandra Champlain, author of the book We Don't Die, A Skeptic's Discovery of Life After Death. And speaking to us from Ireland today, we have Lorna Byrne. Lorna is an international #1 best-selling author with more than 1 million readers around the world. Her books, Angels in My Hair, Stairways to Heaven, A Message of Hope from the Angels, and Love from Heaven, have been translated into 30 languages. She has been featured extensively in worldwide television, radio, and print media, including CNN, NBC Today, BBC, and many, many others. Lorna's work has included many sold-out worldwide events. But without further ado, it's now time to find out about angels. Lorna Byrne, welcome to We Don't Die Radio.
Hi, Sandra. I'm delighted now to be talking with you, and I'm looking forward to all the wonderful questions you're going to ask.
Oh, thanks so much. I have a big smile on my face, like a little girl at Christmas with a bunch of presents ready to be opened. That's the feeling I have right now, just a lot of joy. Could you just tell us a little bit about yourself? I mean, I imagine, I don't imagine, but as a child, could you tell us a little bit about your childhood and if seeing angels was something that came natural or came later on?
It was something I would say came natural. I always would say, and especially in Angels in My Hair, I've already said that, from the moment I opened my eyes, I saw angels, even though I didn't know they were angels because I was only an infant. And, I see angels physically every day of my life. I know if I was in the same room with you now, I would see your guardian angel as physically as I would see yourself. And it was when I was about 2.5 years of age, when I was sitting in front of the fire with my little brother, and we were playing with blocks that my dad had made. And it was like as if, the only way I can describe it, his hand went into mine or mine went into his, and it just sparkled. And I just felt such love. And you have to remember, I was only an infant, only about 2.5 years of age.
Was your brother alive in this world? Or
No,
was he deceased?
And I didn't know that. That's why I'm saying you have to remember I was only this age. And it was at that time that the angels said to me, my brother was a soul that he had died before I was born. And they were angels, but I must keep it a secret.
Wow.
And I suppose, being a child, they were constantly reminding me to keep it a secret. So I actually never told anyone. And one of the lovely things was that, when I did write Angels in My Hair eventually, I read that chapter with the help of a friend to my mom. And she was just so moved by it. Because sometimes I would see my brother as an infant in her arms when she was asleep in the chair in front of the fire. Mm-hmm. And I was only 2 or 2.5, so it didn't occur to me, how come my brother could change age.
Right.
I never questioned the angels or anything they said. They have been my best friends, my companions, and my teachers. And I'm what you call dyslexic. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it properly.
Yes, dyslexic, yes.
And so therefore I had learning difficulties for learning the normal things of life, like reading and writing and going left and right and all of those kind of things. And when a child had any learning difficulties at all in Ireland, at that time, you have to remember it's way, way back, they were just branded retarded. And it was as I got older, I realised why the angels had said I must keep it a secret. Because if I didn't do what they said, I wouldn't be here today talking to you. I would have ended up in one of those institutions in Ireland. So I'm just so glad that my guardian angel and the other angels that were always around me kept on reminding me, you must keep it a secret. You mustn't say anything.
When your mother heard that chapter in your book, was that the first time she had known that your younger brother or your
Yes,
brother was with you?
yes, that was the first time. And she explained to me that she always felt his presence around her at certain times. But she said to me, with tears in her eyes, that in Ireland way back then, when a mother lost a child, you weren't really allowed to talk about it. It was kind of, they were told, she said, to get on with life. You will have more children. And I suppose that was the usual thing maybe said all around the world. So she said she never really got a chance to just grieve. She always had to do it secretly.
Wow.
And I think that's a very sad thing, because I know lots of mothers and fathers must have done the same thing, back at that time. It's only as the world is changing, you're allowed now to grieve, and you're allowed to grieve, openly. And I think that's so important. But I think it's important to remember that your loved one is still alive, because just like my little brother, who was only his body that died, he had a soul, which I call that speck of light of God, that spark that fills every part of the human body. And I suppose that's one of the great messages that was in Angels in My Hair. And I would always give more information as I would write more books. In that way I give another little bit, because I notice people find it hard to cope if you give them too much in one go. So I suppose with every book I write, I'm just giving a little bit more so you can grasp what is being said and the knowledge that you're being given for yourself.
You must have a helper writing your book, being dyslexic?
Yeah, that was the most incredible story. The angels all my life always said, I have to keep it a secret. But one other thing, they would say, and that was, and they still, do the same thing today with me, but on other things, was that, one day, Lorna, you will write about God and us. And, as a child, when they used to say that, I used to kind of laugh, and in a sense, like a child, think they were only playing, joking,
right,
in that way. But, as I became a teenager and they said the same thing, like, I used to kind of say, no way, that can never happen. I can't read or write. I'm considered, mentally retarded. And I know that word is not allowed to be used anymore, but that was the word that was used at that time. And it was when I was actually married to my husband Joe, and again, that's another lovely story, but I know I won't be able to tell you all the stories today, but they're all in Angels in My Hair and the other books. And it was when the angel Michael came up behind me, and it is actually the Archangel Michael, just for your listeners, I'll just say that. And he came up and, kind of teased me, and I was feeling my young daughter. She was a baby and she was asleep in her pram. And I remember that day was cold and breezy, and I was a young mother, having so much to do as you do with babies and young children. And I remember just stopping, wheeling the pram and turning around, and there was Angel Michael, and, he just said to me, Lorna, it's getting near time for you to write. This is the message he was bringing. And I remember, holding on to the handlebars of the pram and just kind of getting annoyed with him. Does God not know I have enough to do, in that way? And I just said to him, I can't read or write. How on earth does God expect me to even write one book? Like, I thought it was just totally crazy and would never happen. And he just said, Lorna, God has just said it's getting near time for you to write. And I remember walking home and it being on my mind, and I knew one day I would have to say yes. But I didn't say yes then. I knew I couldn't keep on saying no all of the time, or in a sense not answering in that way. And it was many years after my husband Joe had died that I actually said yes. And the moment I said yes, those blessings just happened. One was someone I had just met, and they knew I couldn't read or write. I just said, I'm going to write. I never said another word. Mm-hmm. That was all I said. I'm going to write. And one day I came home and a knock came to the door. I was after being down at the school, and this person just walks in with 2 boxes, puts them on the table, has a quick chat, cup of tea, just the usual, and left. And I remember when I opened the boxes, there was a laptop, which I didn't know how to use, mm-hmm. Even a printer, and a little box in among all of that to do with the Dragonet.
And yes.
That's what I use today.
So you speak it, and it turns it into the written word.
I speak, yeah.
That's great.
Into the computer, and it prints out now. It doesn't always work perfectly. So I'm always giving out to God and the angels over, when do you think they can improve technology?
Right.
and print out the exact words I have said.
Funny.
Because my voice would change. So sometimes it has a problem with that. But my daughter Megan, then she would get all the printed out stuff. I would send it to her, and then she would edit it for me, or she'd come back and say, Mom, you're after writing a whole load. I know it's all backwards. How do you talk backwards into the computer? And I would say, well, maybe I was tired, or I don't know how I did it. I give out to the angels sometimes over that.
Oh, that's funny. And what a wonderful soul that brought you the laptop and the printer and the software. That's really wonderful. I would like to ask you about your husband, Joe, because believing in angels and knowing their existence, and then losing his body from this earth, there's grief involved. Did it help? How do I even say this? Because you've always believed in angels, so it can't be like, well, how did you feel then? Is it different kind of grief? But what was your experience like knowing that?
No, I don't think it's a different kind of grief at all. I suppose I should tell you, when I was the age of 10, and again, this story is in Angels in My Hair, but I'll skip most of it.
Okay.
But it was a time I was fishing with my dad, and the angels said to go up along the river. There was another angel I was to meet, and just asking my dad, was it okay, and skipping on up along the river, and getting to a point, and the angel saying stop. And I was to look across the river, and there appeared this fantastic angel Elijah, and I could never pronounce his name. It's only in the last few years I'm actually been able to do it. He walked across the river, and you have to remember I was only 10 years of age.
Wow.
So that really fascinated me about.
Sure.
More than any other angel ever until I was that age, him just walking across the river. And when he walked onto the bank, the first thing I said to him, can I not do that? Because I wanted to do that.
Of course.
To me, that was incredible. And he sat down with me, and he told me he was going to show me something. And then the only way I can describe it, like a big screen, like silk, like crystal appeared across the water, just so clear. And he told me to look at it. And as I did, he spoke, and a young man appeared walking up a road with trees on each side of the road. And he told me that this would be the young man I would marry and fall in love with.
Wow.
And I was only 10. I remember giggling.
Right.
What's he talking about? Fall in love with, I just thought it was so funny. And he just said, we would have children, ups and downs. But the part I didn't like that he told me was that this young man, we wouldn't grow old together.
Mm-hmm.
He would become sick and he would die. God would take him home to heaven. And I remember being very annoyed with Angel Elijah. I even said to him, why did you have to tell me that? What was the need to tell me that? And he just said, because God said you needed to know. And he put it to the back of my mind. He put his hand at the back of my head. And in a sense, he put it to the back of my mind, but I was always very conscious of it. And, I did fall in love with Joe, and we met and we had children, and we had all those ups and downs, and we were extremely poor. And it was hard because I could never tell him, I know we're not going to grow old together, because you can't do that to someone.
No.
Because he needed to live his life and enjoy it as much as he possibly could.
Right.
Because he was very sick for such a long part of his life. But for me, it didn't make it any easier. Just because I knew, it didn't make it any easier, as the days got shorter when I knew he would be soon going.
Mm-hmm.
He'd be leaving us. And that particular day was very hard on my children. It was the day after my birthday and my daughter's birthday. And I always remember that day because Joe had said, even though he was in bed, to myself and Ruth, I want you to go off into Dublin, and have a nice time, buy a present. He wanted me to buy a ring. And seemingly he had been saving this money, and I didn't know a friend had been giving him a few bob every time he came to see him. And I was just so nervous and so worried because I knew his time was so close, and I was praying to God, don't let him go now, let us get home. And of course we did get home. I know I'm skipping loads of the story. And the next day he died, the next morning, but my children did get a chance, unknowing to themselves, to say goodbye to their dad. It's just the way God had worked it all out. My daughter Ruth was going away for a weekend with her boyfriend's family for a holiday. It was just down the country, a house they had rented or something. His family had rented, and she said goodbye to her dad. She was saying to her dad, do you think it's really all right for me to go? You'll be okay. And he wanted her to go. It's your birthday, off you go. And she even said herself she felt so apprehensive about going. And again, then, Owen and Christopher, coming in and spending time with their dad, sitting at the fire. And then that evening, the angel saying to me, Lorna, it is really, really very close now. And he looked great. He died early hours of the morning, I think maybe around 7 or whatever time it was, but he died peacefully, and just seeing all the angels in the room and seeing his soul leaving,
wow,
was incredible. And I think that's what everyone who has to remember. Your loved one, it's only their body that has died. Our loved ones give us signs all of the time, and sometimes when someone is grieving so hard, they don't recognize the signs.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say to you, don't give up in that way, because as you go through your grief, as it gets, in one sense, maybe a little bit easier, you will start to recognize the signs, but to know that you will meet your loved one again, but only when it's your time.
Yeah. Have you seen Joe like you had seen your brother, his soul?
Yeah, I have, and I have written about my youngest daughter, Megan, making her confirmation, and the soul of her dad walking up to the altar with her.
Oh.
And I think that's in Stairways to Heaven. I'd forget what's in each book, if you know what I mean. I haven't been able to keep up
That's okay.
with what I put in. And that alone has been a great comfort to everybody that has lost a loved one, or even a mother and father who have lost a child. I would often sometimes, a family might get in contact with me some way, and ask, could they bring their sick child to me? And, sometimes God would tell me this child is going to get better, and I'd bless them and pray over them. But sometimes I'm told no. And of course, I would never say that to the parents. I would just give them as much encouragement as possible, and to enjoy their child while their child is still here physically, in the flesh and blood.
Yes.
But I always remember one little boy, he would insist on his mom and dad bringing him to visit me. I don't know, many times I had seen him, but the last couple of times he was saying, Lorna, Mom and Dad is not listening to me. I've been trying to tell them I'd be going home soon. And sometimes I suppose when he would say that, he might be in hospital and they would think it was home to the house.
Yes.
But the little boy didn't mean that. He meant home to heaven. And he would say, and I see my guardian angel now. And he would describe his guardian angel. And I always remember one time he just said, will you please tell Daddy and Mommy, that I'm going home to heaven, because they're not listening to me. And it was really hard. So the only way I could do it was the most gentlest way. And that was that it is time now to spend every moment with your son.
Mm-hmm.
Don't miss a moment. Just spend it with your son. And of course, he went home to heaven a week later. But I remember getting a letter from the parents, and they just said, thank you for telling us to spend every moment with our son. That was the most precious time.
Absolutely.
But we do find it hard. It's the one thing that tears us apart, is losing a loved one.
Mm-hmm.
And I suppose, people, I met a woman just here in Ireland, and her husband was killed tragically. And, she said to me, Lorna, I don't believe in God anymore. How could there be a God? And he took my husband, he took my husband, and why didn't he leave him here with me? But I think we have to remember, God takes us all home to heaven in so many different ways. And I know her husband was a car crash, but he's right there with her as well, and she will see him again. But it can be the grief and the pain that makes us angry and makes us, in a sense, disbelieve that God is real, or our guardian angel is real. But the most wonderful thing is that God fell in love with us and, gave us a soul. And that's why you will see your loved one again. God has given us this wonderful soul that is pure love. And to me, that is an incredible thing. I always say to people, I know I have Love from Heaven coming out in America in February, and I always say to people, you are pure love because of your soul. And the more you learn to love yourself, the more that you can, love the stranger, or love your loved one, or love your husband more, or your children more. You can't love anyone any more than you love yourself.
That's a hard thing I've found, and many people do too. I think it's easy to love my mom or people in my life. Any advice on loving ourselves?
I think the first thing you have to remember is that you have this soul, and you have this, and because you have your soul, you have this beautiful guardian angel that is the gatekeeper of your soul. And to remember that, your soul is that spark, that speck of light of God. And even though it's so tiny, it fills every part of you, and it's pure. And you are pure love. That's what you have to remember. And you can't dilute it or get rid of it. You can't give too much of it away. And yet it's the one thing as well that we're afraid of, is if I love someone or love them too much, I'm going to get hurt. And I suppose that again maybe has to do with, part of that we know humanly we're going to die. Our human body is. But remember, your soul isn't. So you can love, and it's okay to love. And sometimes love does hurt. And again, when we lose a loved one, that love really, really hurts because we have lost them. And we realize how much at that moment we did love them. And we realize how much, they loved us. And the way we often say in grief, well, I never got a chance to say goodbye. I never said all of these wonderful things I should have said. So we have to say to ourselves, I am pure love, and it's okay. And it's okay to say those things. You should tell your loved one you love them every day. You should say all those nice and good things every day. Sometimes a parent would say to me, their teenager, especially their teenager, is giving them such a hard time. It's their teenager that's screaming at them and saying they hate them. It's their teenager that's doing all of the wrong things. But who else can your child say all those things to and scream at and say, I don't love you? But only the one they do love.
Oh,
and it's
true.
for parents to recognize that, and say to their teenager, no matter what you do, I still love you.
I just thought of something, Lorna. If we could each, for a moment, just pretend that we're looking at ourselves through the eyes of our guardian angel, all I can think would be love.
Exactly. And that is very important to remember, because your guardian angel loves you unconditionally, and is there every second of your life. Never leaves you at all. And to your guardian angel, you're its number one. No other human being in the world, and it only has eyes for you. But if we all recognized, that we have a soul, that pure love, to be, what would you say, no wars, no hatred, the world would be such a different place.
Absolutely.
Such a positive place and full of hope. And that is, that's what life is about, because I know that's what you wanted to talk about as well. Life is about living life. It's about loving, enjoying, and being happy, even in the most difficult times of our life, to recognize, I am alive. I can breathe. I can see all the blessings that you have. I remember saying to some people, how many blessings do you think you have in your life? And, well, they named out actually the material blessings. But they're not the important blessings. The most important blessings is that you have life, that you are alive, that you have a soul and a guardian angel that you can see, that you can hear, that you can listen, that you can walk, that you can do so many things in that way, because when any of them are taken away from you, and that often happens in people's lives, they could lose their sight or partly sight. They could lose their hearing. They could lose the ability to walk, the ability to feel touch, even emotions in that way. Everybody would give any material thing they possibly could for that blessing to come back.
Yes.
In that way. And again, it is, a mother says, I would give anything for God if God allows my child to live. So you're looking for the blessing of life. There's so many stories I could tell you, so I suppose I better let you ask a few questions.
That's why you have 4 books. One of the nicest things, though, is to know that each and every one of us has a guardian angel. Is that what you're saying? There's not anyone who doesn't. We all have a special being that greeted us when we first took our first breath, and I'm guessing, will they guide us to heaven when we take our last breath?
Yeah, they will take you right home. And I don't know what book I have written it in now, but I have written about the guardian angel, you as a soul meeting your guardian angel in heaven before you were even conceived.
Wow.
Standing in among that sea of souls, and your guardian angel walking through the sea of souls, looking for you and finding you. And I know I'm skipping loads.
Oh, I love it.
It's
good.
Could be in Stairways to Heaven.
It's okay.
I'm not sure.
I'm visualizing it though and loving it.
And then going on a journey, walking from there to where God is, and standing in front of God, and God showing the soul all the good and bad things of their life, and the guardian angel being told to make sure that it brings back home to heaven this wonderful soul, being the gatekeeper. But again, the guardian angel or no angel, or even God, doesn't overstep that human thing that we have, the free will. And I know everyone says, well, why doesn't God take away free will? But I think it is part of the human part of us, and I think it's important for us to have it. And when you are conceived, your guardian angel is right there with you, even in the womb. I always remember, I don't know what book now I have the story in, but it's about my own daughter being pregnant and seeing the light of her guardian angel around the very beginning of her pregnancy. The soul had already come, and the guardian angel was with it, and I couldn't tell my daughter she was pregnant.
Wow.
I had to wait for her to find out for herself, and your guardian angel can never be anyone else's guardian angel. I have written so much, and it doesn't matter whether a person is good or bad. And I know people get annoyed with that. But every single human being has a guardian angel. And again, it doesn't matter what faith they are, what religion they are, or even if they say they don't belong to any, they all have a guardian angel.
That is so special to know that we have a partner. It's so, I'm not the only one who very much feels alone sometimes, but to really get that we're never alone.
Yeah, no, every single human being has a guardian angel, and to me that is one of the wonderful gifts. I'm so glad God fell in love with us. I don't know why he did. When you look at the world today, how on earth, what did he see in us? But I think it is incredible that he's given us, a soul, that speck of light of himself, and a guardian angel that can never leave us even for 1 second.
Can we have a relationship with our guardian angel? Do they listen to us? Can they give advice or help us out? Or how do we have a relationship?
Well, I suppose maybe I should say to you that on the 23rd of February. I'm going to be in the Open Centre in New York. I'm just giving a talk, and then there'll be questions and answers, and then I will bless everyone afterwards. But in Boston on the 25th of February
2017, yes.
2017, I'll be with Mike Dooley, and I'm doing a workshop there. And I have to say, my workshops don't go, what would you say, you can't set it out in one way. You can put a setting there, but that doesn't mean it's going to go that way.
Right.
But I done a workshop in Dublin back there, one of the first ones I did. And no, it was in England, sorry. It was in England, and the angels changed it completely, and they got me to give everyone an exercise, a particular type of exercise, and I'd done it the exact way. It'd take me too long to go into it, and the way they said. And the most incredible thing was everybody heard the answers, and I have to say answers, to the three things that they got from their guardian angel, except one person, one lady. And she said, I know why I didn't, because I didn't do exactly as you said, Lorna. I was letting all the other thoughts of the world come in. So you never know what is going to happen.
Yeah, but that speaks volume for being able to quiet our mind so that we actually can listen.
It does. And I always find when people are, I don't want to say in my presence, but because I was there and doing it with them, that usually everyone can do it. But that one lady, and it was lovely that she stood up and admitted, and loads of other things happened with what we did. So I'm looking forward, because it's been, I think, 3 years or 4 years since I have done any talks in America. So I'm looking forward to going to New York and Boston.
Yeah, and for our listener,
so it's been a long time.
Let me just tell you, if you are somebody able to go to one of the workshops, if you go to my website, wedon'tdieradio.com, and click on episode 130, that's Lorna's episode, and I have the links to the events February 23rd and 25th in New York and Boston, if you'd like to attend, and also a link to your website with the other places you'll be in the world, so that people can follow you and maybe get to see you speak live. Very exciting, very exciting. I would like to ask you, though, what I'm sure this might be hard to describe, but what would an angel look like to you or to us? I mean, I grew up Catholic, and I think of the winged beings, beautiful. But is that what you see?
They're extremely beautiful, and I always say to people, I would not be able to describe an angel, only for they give a human appearance within themselves, and that's the only way I can say it. Sometimes an angel will show wings, but really very seldom. It's just like the Archangel Michael, he seldom shows wings. He only showed wings on one particular occasion, and that was when, he gave me the prayer that God had given him. I always feel privileged if an angel or even a guardian angel shows wings. But when I think about it, it's not as often maybe as everyone would think. But I do believe every angel has wings, and at this special time of the year, Christmas time, the gates of heaven are just opened a little bit more. God opens them.
Nice.
And there are streams of angels from before November, the beginning of November, just coming to the earth, coming to our world, carrying beautiful balls of light, full of the spirit of Christmas, full of hope and belief, full of happiness and joy. And I see them dropping them on every home, and I have seen this since I was a child. Dropping them on every home, whether it's a house or an apartment or a car or a shoebox or a tent, wherever people are living, no matter what, they drop these balls of light. And if all the family are not there, they'll come back again. So, and the only way I can describe it, it's like when they drop the ball of light, it just explodes and it seems to light up the home. And I would say every nook and cranny, but it touches everybody within that home. And children are full of the spirit of Christmas at this time of the year.
Yes.
And I think we have to remember that no matter what faith you are, and even of none, most people in the world, and I would say it would be very high, like nearly 99%, know of the child that was born 2,000 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And that child gave us all hope. But that child was pure love, vulnerable, needed protection and love. And again, it's reminding us that that's what the children of today need as well.
I wanted to ask you, because I saw on your website you have a children's foundation. What is that?
Yeah, I have a children's foundation. The laws are very strict here in Ireland. So we're still in negotiations, but the charity has been up and running. And I'm helping children. I get lots of requests in to help children from other charities, but sometimes from individuals. We help Blue Box here in Ireland. It's children that have been traumatized. We help children in Africa as well. And we're helping UNICEF as well with the children on the first, I think they call it the first grade or number one. Because I remember the man saying to us, if they don't survive the first set, there's no point having 2, 3, 4, or 5 in that way. So we have to help at home, and that's very important. But we can't forget about the children that are outside, because it's no child's fault that they are in need of help, or or they're hungry, or they're traumatized in any way. I had a priest ring me last week. I done a Christmas party to raise money for the charity, and a priest rang me and said, Lorna, my parish here, because the parish is kind of alienated, it's known as a place where you don't go, it's all bad, that's the way people look on it, but the children are innocent.
Yes.
And he just said, these children have nothing. How am I going to manage Santa Claus for them, and any nice little goodies for them, because they get so little. But I have to say I put the call out, and I got a load of toys.
Nice.
Selection boxes. So actually the priest is downstairs to take them back to Limerick.
Nice.
He's here in the house at the moment.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
So he was overjoyed when he saw all of the things. It's to give we have to remember children are innocent.
Yes.
And we have to reach out and help. And when you lose a loved one, even though you're shattered and hurt, your loved one would love you to help as well. So we're always looking for donations. And on my website, there's a section that, says if you can donate. I just say, even if it's only, I know you're America, $1 or 50 cents, we don't care, because it all adds up. And I always say to someone, you never know which child you have saved.
Oh, it's so true. And your website is lornabyrne.com.
Yeah, that's it.
And there's also a link to that on my website, wedon'tdieradio.com, episode 130. You're welcome. And with every child, I know, gosh, you hear so many stories when somebody believes in them and makes a difference. It can open up a whole new world, and you just never know who's the next Mother Teresa or Gandhi or whomever.
You don't know, and that's what we have to remember. The child you save today could be the next.
Yeah. And it may
person
be
who finds a cure for something,
sure,
or the greatest surgeon, or the greatest leader, for peace. You just don't know. So it's really very, very important.
And there's so many children around the world, even in each of our communities, that if you can take a moment and find a way to make a difference, is important.
Well, please God, I'll be able to do some work with the charity in America as well.
I'm sure.
But we need lots of help in order to do that.
Lorna, I don't want to forget to ask you about the power of prayer. You hear about it, but it's
Yeah.
something that I haven't made a practice myself, but I'd like to. But could you
Well,
talk to us a
prayer,
little bit about
yeah,
prayer?
prayer is extremely powerful, and today in today's world, we don't realize that. You know, the expression they use, prayer can move mountains,
Mm-hmm.
and literally can. And at times, I would go on my Facebook post and I would ask people to pray, for peace in the world, for different things that are happening, and when we do that and when we pray with a pure heart, you don't have to, be kneeling down and say a whole load of prayers off. You could be driving your car, you could be sitting on a bus or on a train, you could be in your office, and all of a sudden the thought comes across your mind to pray. And that's your guardian angel to telling you, that somewhere in the world prayer is needed.
Mm-hmm.
And you should pray. And even if it is just one word, sometimes the most powerful prayer can be, a mother or a father. And I know that has been happening where horrific things have happened in the world today and
Yes.
are even happening at this moment, when a father or mother or a child cries out, even the word help. And that's a prayer. Or they cry out, God help us, or why is this happening? Help, in that way. It doesn't matter what way one prays. Prayer is prayer. And every time I see people in prayer, I could be walking down the road and someone is walking the far side of the road, and I know they're praying, because I would see, the only way I can describe it is like, you can imagine Niagara Falls. I don't know if that's the biggest
It's big.
waterfall in the world.
It's a big
but
one for sure.
You could imagine that being billions of times bigger, and instead of coming down, it's going up, because it's all angels. It's angels of prayer, enhancing our prayers, imploring, for the good thing that we're asking, if at all possible. But we have to listen, and sometimes I would ask people to pray for particular leaders in the world, and sometimes I'd get back, how dare you ask, they're so bad, and I won't say other things they might say,
Right.
or, but they will never change if we don't pray for them.
And I saw in
They
your...
won't stop and hesitate and listen.
No.
And allow themselves to feel the compassion in their heart, or what their guardian angel is saying, unless we pray. I have been praying for Northern Ireland, because we've had war here in Northern Ireland, for as long as I can remember.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have peace, but still the angels still keep asking me to keep on praying that peace remains in Northern Ireland, because Northern Ireland is the cornerstone of peace for the world.
Wow.
And that's one thing we have to remember. It doesn't matter whether you agree with a government or a leader. They won't change unless we pray. And that's what happened one day. I remember, hearing on the radio, and I just smiled with joy. And it was a man called Paisley, and he turned around to reporters or whoever was there, and he just said, his words were, we have to stop killing each other. And that was the beginning, that moment when peace started. I know it took a long, long time, but it was the beginning of the talks, and they have peace now, and it's wonderful to be able to go up there, and children can go to school, and they know their mom and dad will be at home. They wouldn't have got killed or shot or a bomb, and parents know that their child is going to come home from school as well, that they're not going to be blown up. It's just wonderful to see young people hop off a bus and go into the shopping centres now, and everything like that. So prayer is extremely powerful.
And it's so interesting because we just had a change in president in our country, and everybody has their own opinions, but a lot of people say, well, what can I do? I'm just one person. And I'm just thinking, all the leaders in the world, if we remember that they have that spark, that they are a soul, and that prayer does work, that is something we can do
That
because we all want
that
peace.
is,
We
yeah.
do.
And I pray for your president, your new president now that's coming up, Trump. I
Hmm.
pray that somehow, no matter what everyone thinks of him, that somehow he will listen and he will make as many of the right decisions as possible. I know he'll probably make some wrong, but as many of the right that is possible for America and for the rest of the world.
Mm. And I
You
too
know,
believe prayer
and
does work.
yeah,
Yeah.
it does work. And no matter, what ups and downs we have in our lives, just always remember you will get through them because of prayer, because someone else is praying for you, the stranger. I have people praying for the stranger, the people they don't know all over the world. And that's an important thing to remember. And to pray for our leaders of the world, whether they're presidents or governments or princes or kings, we have to pray for them that they will listen and have compassion and love and make the right decisions, because we have to head towards a better peaceful world than what we have.
Absolutely. And each one of us can make a difference there.
A huge difference.
Lorna, thank you. Our hour has gone by so quickly, as it always does.
Well, I
Uh,
was delighted to be talking with you and all
yes.
of your listeners.
Oh,
So
yes. And
I
thank
hope
you.
I'll meet many of them in New York when I get there,
Oh,
and
it's very
Boston.
exciting. Yes, we have a lot of listeners, and I wouldn't doubt that you would. But thank you for all that you do, and even for being courageous enough to listen to the angels and share your story, and to have 1 million plus readers worldwide. And give people hope and give people direction and love. And the biggest, most comforting thing, even though you've said a lot, is just to know that there's someone standing behind me or by my side, that each one of us has this guardian angel that loves us unconditionally. And it's number one. I love that. Wow. But
Well, that's what you
gosh.
have to remember.
Yeah, to have a partner, a teammate, it's just wonderful. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and for our
And
listener, oh, go ahead. I don't want to interrupt you.
I would like to say Happy Christmas to
Oh,
everyone,
yes.
and I ask for the new year to be full of great blessings for everyone as well,
Yes.
2017, and all my love to
Thank you
everyone.
so much. And for our listener, thank you too for being here. Wishing you happy holidays, or you may be hearing this sometime in the future, past 2016, 2017. But thank you for listening. And I want to remind you, all episodes are at wedon'tdieradio.com. This has been episode 130 with Lorna Byrne, and I have all of her links to her videos, her books, her website, and her children's foundation, and even a prayer scroll that she has. And in closing, I took this off Lorna's website. She has some pretty powerful messages from Lorna, that every person has a soul. Every person has a guardian angel. God is real. It doesn't matter what you believe, or even if you believe in nothing. There is always hope, and prayer is powerful. So in closing, I'm Sandra Champlain, and I've been your host. I do believe that life is an education for the soul, and that your life here on earth is important. So thank you for listening, and we'll see you soon.